Hello, my name is Hugo Prévost, and this is SVGA, your PC retro gaming podcast. Today, for the ninth episode of our series, I'm joined, as always, by Robert Hills. Hello, Robert.
Hello, Hugo. How you doing?
I'm fine, and you?
Not so bad.
First of all, I wanted to wish you a happy new year. I'm glad to talk to you in 2021. We made it.
Yo, we
So,
made it only just, but we made it.
yeah, and let's hope that we make it until the end of the year or until we get our vaccine. So,
Yeah.
whatever come first. But yeah, so I'm happy to talk video games with you again after let's say the wild first week of 2021.
Yeah. Well, first
Especially,
3 weeks, I guess.
yeah, but
Time really
now,
flies.
yeah, but now it's. I mean, since what? Since the 20th. It's what, 2 days ago now. No, even no, it was yesterday.
Yeah, that
Wow,
was that
yeah,
was yesterday.
when Joe Biden officially began his term as president of the United States. Feels like everything's going to be fine-ish. Anyway, so we'll see if
If not, it looks slightly better. So I mean, improve is always good.
yeah, we'll take it. So yeah, well, speaking of things are getting better, we had a bit of a snag this week. What happened exactly?
Yeah, well, we were hoping to play the original of Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, I think, which is the first game that really got the Tom Clancy's treatment.
Yeah,
And I couldn't get it to load, unfortunately. So we had to switch gears a bit, which turned out really well. We were having a lot of fun with this one, but this week we played Unreal Tournament.
exactly. Unreal Tournament came out in 1999, developed by Digital Extremes and a little studio called Epic
Yeah,
Games.
never really heard of
That
that one. Whatever happened to them?
exactly. It's like Valve. They never really did anything interesting, and we don't hear about them today. So yeah. But yeah, so Unreal Tournament, published by GT Interactive at the time. Don't even know if this exists anymore. But yeah, so 1999, the year of the arena shooter, because I've checked it on the trusty internet, and it's the same year as Quake 3 came
Yeah,
out.
which is interesting. At the
So
time, actually, I think I played a little more Quake 3 than I did Unreal Tournament. But I remember when these ones came out, there was a video demo of Quake 3, and in one of the levels they showed um, there was an archway in like a cathedral window, and the archway was basically smooth, and that was incredible to me. Just to give you an idea of like what we're talking about here, they made round edges.
yeah, I mean, it always takes us back uh, when we go back to these games and remember what we used to think back then. I remember trying Half Life One in not even a convention. It was well, we could maybe call it a convention. Anyway, it was in the Palais des Congrès in Montreal, and I didn't even play the game. I mean, played the game, but it was the tram ride at the beginning that lasts about what, 10 minutes.
It's closer to like three, but yeah.
Yeah, but it feels like it feels like it's 10 or 20 minutes.
Well, now it feels so long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I didn't even get to the point where I needed to get off the train to basically really start the game. And I remember being so impressed by the textures, the architecture, the fact that everything was alive around
Hmm.
me, and it was feeling really like you're being there instead of having a cutscene or a title sequence. But yeah, we won't talk about Half-Life today. We already did. If you want to go back and listen to it, I think it was the very first episode of the series. So episode number one, of course. So then Unreal Tournament. I didn't really play the first one. I think I discovered the series in 2003 when the
Okay.
second one came out, and it was a bit of a weird thing in 2003 because UT 2003 came out that year, and then the year after that, it felt like it was both something like an expansion because UT 2004 came out, of course, in 2004, and it felt like I bought both games, and the funny thing is the first one was on 7 CDs with paper inserts, and you have to switch CDs when you install the game. And this 2000 UT 2004 was, I think, one of the first games that I bought on DVD. And then, of course, you have only one disc and so on. But yeah, it felt like going to be real quick about this, but UT 2003 felt a little bit unfinished, and then 2004 comes out with vehicles and more play modes and more graphics that were a little bit better, but not really that much better. So yeah, and then there was the really less known Unreal Tournament 3 in 2007, and you see that I think there never was Unreal Tournament 2. So it feels like this series is going all over the place. Yeah, Unreal Tournament, the naming of the series. And what happened was in 2014, they did about every, what every studio did around that time was restarting a series and put it using the original name as to confuse the
Right.
most people, as many people as they can. So we have Doom 1, Doom 2. Sorry, not Doom 1, Doom 2, Doom 3, and then Doom. And then you have Unreal Tournament 2003, 2004, Unreal Tournament 3, and then Unreal Tournament. So it's a bit of a mix up. So yeah, Unreal Tournament in 2014 came out. I remember on the what was known at the time as the Epic Games launcher, and which became Epic Game Store, and when Epic became the what we could call the incarnation of Satan himself. That's maybe another topic for another time. But yeah, so it came out in early access. It still is. Um, I think it'll never come out officially. I mean, it's made by the players. It's free to play if you want to try it. Uh, but yeah, so we'll go back to the OG UT, if you would. Uh, and so yeah, Arena Shooter in 1999, we played the GOG version, the Game of the Year edition of Unreal Tournament, available on GOG. As you like you said during the intro, it was remarkably smooth and well, it went really well.
Yeah, I mean, for a game that 1999, so we're talking too long ago. Um, it, I mean, on my machine, Windows 10, all that. I didn't need to do anything. I installed it. I ran it, made all my settings, and it worked. It worked online. It worked in single player. The graphics didn't hitch. That there was no problem, which is actually quite incredible. And we brought in a few friends to play with us online, and I mean, other than horrendously slow download times within the game itself, we had no issues, which was kind of incredible for something that is so old and it's not
Yeah,
really being developed anymore. So it just still works, which is fascinating.
it is, and I mean, I did have a little problem, and maybe it's linked to my video card or whatever it is. But uh, I had to, and we'll put this in the article, the description of the episode on PF two. There's a way to, if you use the Direct 3D option, which is preferred instead of software rendering, which is basically we won't get into the details, but if you use the capacity of your video card, which should be really, really, really overkill for this 21, 22 years old
Oh
game.
yeah, I never had frame rates like this when I was first playing it.
No, and what I had was some slowdowns, and I was thinking, oh god, I cannot. This cannot be. I mean, I have an RTX 2060 from Nvidia as a video card. I have a 3 point whatever gigahertz processor. Should this should not happen? And what I discovered was you have to use a custom file to replace something called an OpenGL renderer, which is another graphics mode, if I can summarize it like this. And so, yeah, we'll put the link in the description. You can download it. It takes about a second to download. You copy this file in the on your system in the installation folder for the game, and
Place
then
a DLL or whatever, and
yeah,
then off
exactly,
you go. And
and
it
then
works.
yeah, it works. And maybe you could just for a second maybe turn down your microphone gain a bit. Uh,
Oh,
just
sorry.
yes, I feel that you're peaking a little bit. That's okay. Nothing that the post editing can fix. But yeah, if you want to
Make a note of
you have
that
some smooth
time.
sailing from now, that's perfect. Thanks.
Sorry.
Um, yeah, so sorry about that. What I was saying, yeah. So not really not really an issue with this. I would say that I tried with the. It wasn't the case with this when I fixed the problem with the stuttering, but at first I had the option to play the game in 4K, which the game really doesn't like. Uh,
No, that seems like too many pixels.
yeah, it tries really hard, but it doesn't work. But yeah, besides that, it's really smooth sailing. It's fluid. It's fast. Maybe sometimes a bit too fast, even.
Yes. Well, I mean, like let's get into the gameplay itself because I think I think too fast is maybe the best way to describe
Yeah,
the gameplay. It's quick. It's really a style that doesn't exist anymore
yeah.
in like
I
even
mean,
when you
there
talk
is.
about like Call of Duty or whatever, which is pretty fast paced. This
Yeah,
is just like it's constant fragging.
yeah, exactly. But well, basically, for people that doesn't know what an arena shooter is, you're in an arena and you shoot. So that's. I mean, you kill other people with guns,
Yeah,
and
it's a first person shooter that's basically designed as some imagined future where for entertainment, kind of like the Running Man, it's just everyone shooting themselves to death. Basically, I think that's the essential story behind it, but they didn't
yeah,
work. There's a brief intro video that makes it seem like there's a story, but there isn't. It's a small map like 8v8, maybe 16v16
yeah.
kind of shooter.
Yeah, and you have different modes. The basic mode is deathmatch, of course. So
Yeah.
it's everyone against everyone. And the first one, you can set score limit, of course, or time limit, or whatever you want. And there's also classic modes like capture the flag, domination, which is taking control of certain areas, and then you get points. And when you have, for example, 100 points for your team, then your team wins. And you know basically how it works. It's everything that has been done 10 or 100 times since. Uh, but it wasn't, maybe it wasn't really the first time they did this at the time, but it was really an interesting way to give this feeling of excitement and, as we said, speed. I think that was the important part of the of the game, is the speed, as you said.
Yeah, and they also, I mean, like I was saying about the story, they didn't. There's no real single player. The single player is basically just the multiplayer, but against bots, and
Yeah,
you're in the tournament trying to get to the top of the ranks. But it doesn't actually. It's just basically practice.
yeah. And
And I don't really know how often that had been done before.
no, exactly. I mean, I'm guessing Quake 3 was basically the same thing. And technically, I think Unreal Tournament takes place in the Unreal universe with the story from the Unreal games, but on the Unreal games, I guess there was Unreal and Unreal 2, and that was it. It got basically wiped out from the collective memory of
Yeah,
gamers.
Unreal Tournament really supplanted
Yeah.
Unreal, the game that kind of based it all.
Um, what about the controls, though?
They are, I mean, I guess the best way I can describe them is loose. Like one of the weird things I found about it was like one, everything is very quick.
Yeah,
But it's interesting, like the modern innovations in shooters or whatever that you instantly miss. Like you don't. There's no looking down sights. There's no. You don't get
yeah,
hit markers if you hit someone or whatever. It's just you pull the trigger and they're either dead or you are. And and one of the interesting things about it was there seems to be a big delay between when you shoot and when you actually shoot. Like you
yeah.
press the button and then like there's a half a beat, which is difficult to get used to.
Yeah, exactly. And then they use some weapons, and we'll talk about the classic weapons of Unreal Tournament. Uh, you get some weapons where there's once again another delay on top of that. When, for example, there's a rocket launcher, and you cannot have an arena shooter without a rocket launcher, of
You
course.
certainly can't.
And but then when you shoot the rocket, I mean, it's not instantaneous. I mean, the rocket has to travel from point A to point B, so you have first of all to try to predict where the other person's gonna go, and then you're gonna try to, okay, am I going for a straight hit, or am I going for splash damage, and all this in an instant while you are running, jumping, turning, getting shot. Uh, it's
Yeah.
it's really really hectic.
Yeah. No, it really is. And it, so I played a few times. And the first time I played against strangers who, and one of the interesting things about this game is it's not a huge community that's still playing, but there are probably hundreds of servers and
Yeah.
dozens of them are populated at like any time you want to log on, like you can find a game with people on it. The problem is that when you find a game with people on it, these are people who are playing this game fairly regularly. And if you have not played this game in a long time, it's wow. I I just got my ass kicked over and over and over.
And I mean, we did, like you said before, we did a multiplayer match with two of our friends, and I got you kicked my ass a few
Yeah, that went
times.
much better for me. I really enjoyed that. That part was fun.
And I mean, it's like coming back to, it's like putting on old shoes. On one side you feel, oh, this is comfortable, this I know this, and on the other side is, what, why did I
Oh yeah, well this is why I got rid of these stupid shoes.
and I mean, as a person who, I think you, like you said, you played more UT than I did, I mean the original game, and coming from UT 2003 2004, uh, this really feels like the foundation of something great, but it's only the foundation.
Yeah, looking
And
back, it doesn't it hasn't sort of fully bloomed.
yeah, exactly. And uh, of course, we tried a few game modes, but when you're four people, or I think there was someone with us at
Yeah,
a for a time.
that was actually kind of one of the fun things is we had just found an empty server, the four of us to try things and just see what was happening. And as we were playing, just random people found our game and then came and kicked our asses.
Yeah, exactly. But uh, we couldn't really play something like. I mean, we did play capture the flag at the end, and people joined in. It was really, really crazy at the end. But for a while, we did some domination. We did some the assault mode, which is basically you have to execute a series of steps.
Objectives,
Yeah,
yeah.
you have to capture objectives and so on and so on. And it feels, and once again, I'm going to go back to, well, this is a strange way to say it, but go back to go forward to, anyway. Uh, going to talk about Unreal Tournament 2004, where this was the first time I played the assault mode, and basically what they do is they take you a little bit more by the hand, and every time you spawn they say, oh, you have to do, there's a voiceover that says you have to do this, and there's, you
Right.
can press a button to have something like a smoke trail going towards your objective. And this is because things can get really really hectic, but at the same time really really barren.
Yeah.
So I tried the assault mode with bots only, and at the beginning of the game they said, "Oh, you have to do this, and this," and it stayed on the screen for about half a second, and it was like, "Okay, I have to do some stuff," and eventually the bots won the game because on my team, but the bots won the game because I didn't know what to do, and I was going around in the, it was a boat going around on the boat trying to find something to, a button to press, something to destroy, and so on. So, like I said, I feel it's like the developers knew that they had something good in their hands,
Yeah.
but they didn't necessarily have all the resources necessary to have a fantastic game.
Right. Well, it's interesting because it's kind of one of the things we sort of keep running up against as we go through all these old games,
Yeah,
is that there was a lot less hand holding in games than they are now. And I mean, some of that, there are positives and negatives to that. And I know John Romero, one of the guys who developed Doom, he talks about how, level design is now all about like sort of basically just pulling you through a straight line through a
yeah,
story instead of being like a maze where you go and find a bunch of different things. But there are advantages to the sort of hand holding method in that it 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 allows you to focus on sort of the core skills of the game, the jumping, the shooting, like whatever it happens to be. It's about sort of playing it rather than constantly stopping to ask, okay, I'm lost. What do I do next? Where do I go? What am I supposed to do with this? Like it's at the very least it tells you like it gives you the next steps so that you
yeah.
don't feel that you have to, like, especially in a game like this where you're playing against random people at all times. And back then it was a lot harder to sort of get in a cohesive group until you got your own server and stuff. um, that there's a huge learning curve there if you just jump into that. Like, even we had who, we play a lot of games semi-professionally for this podcast,
Yeah.
and just sort of on our own time. And and in some of these levels it's very difficult. Like, oh shit, what do we do now? Like, well, what's the point of this? Like, oh, we have to do the, the round's over. And
Yeah.
and that can be a huge stumbling block to getting into video games. Is you just have people come in, run all the way over you, and you don't even know what you were trying to do or why. And and so that's something that I'm kind of glad that we've moved away from.
Uh, I am too, but yeah, there could be a very long discussion about level design and
Oh
hand
yeah.
holding.
Oh yeah, I don't want to
And
get too deep into that.
no, but I want to point out that the funny thing is, I recently played a lot. I went back to the Division 2, which is an open world shooter from Ubisoft, and where
Right.
the objective is marked on your HUD on your screen with a straight line with a distance marker, and you know exactly what to do. They tell you exactly what to do, and instead of something like some another genre, but Morrowind, the role playing game from Bethesda. Maybe that's one that we will cover eventually on this podcast. But where the objective was described, instead of being, okay, go there, there's a marker, is that okay, I have to, the cave is at it's past the second road past the farm, and I have
Right.
to go under the bridge, and it's a little bit northeast of that. And okay, where do I go? I mean, you eventually get to know your way towards your objective. But these are two extreme examples. If I go back to first person shooters. I recently played Dusk, which is a retro shooter, a modern but retro shooter developed by Dave Zimansky from New Blood Interactive. And it's really, really an homage to 1990s FPSs.
Yeah, I've played a very little bit. It's spooky as hell. But anyways,
And
yes.
yeah,
Sorry.
it's really nice. It's fun. The music is fantastic. The graphics are great, even if it's retro. But you see that there's some stuff behind this that is quite modern. But the problem was, at least for me, that in the level, for example, uh, there can be you get into a sort of flow where okay, you shoot enemies, you collect keys, you open doors, and then you're stuck,
Yeah.
and so you've killed everything that you can see. You think that you collected all the keys, and then okay, did I miss a door? Did I miss a secret? Did I miss something?
Yeah.
And it went for 10 minutes, and this game can be really fun where you're moving around, shooting and dodging and everything. And then when you're moving around and there's nothing to do, it sucks. And
Oh
so
yeah. No, and it's funny because in one of the games, actually, a sequel to a game that I mini reviewed this week on our Twitter feed, which you should follow at SVGA podcast. Um, uh, it's Star Wars Dark Forces, I guess 3. It's the third one. I think based on the Quake 3 engine, just to tie it in a neat
the
little bow
third
with
one,
all of
wasn't it
this.
the first one? I don't.
Yeah, so the one I reviewed was the first one, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in the
Okay.
third one there is this level where I get stuck every time I play it, and it happened the first time. It happened a few years ago when I played again, and if I went to play it now, I'd get to the third or fourth level, and I just get lost. And there's like something I need to do, and there's a
Yeah,
door I need to go through, and it takes me like 20 minutes to figure out where it is. And every time I'm like, oh, it's this place, but I can never. And that was such a common feature in older games where you just at some point you're just aimlessly walking around like, oh shit, what do I do? Where do I
yeah,
go?
yeah. I completely understand. And anyway, so basically, well, if of course, if you play a death match in UT, you won't have any problems. If you
No,
play,
because you're if you're alive for more than 10 seconds, something has gone weird.
or you're
You're
really,
either
really
very good, things are going quite well, or you are just you've fallen off the map somehow.
yeah. And same thing for capture the flag, obviously, um,
Should
but
we talk a
yeah,
little bit about Capture the Flag? Did you enjoy what is
I
it,
did.
Edge?
Uh, I did enjoy a little bit less when you shot me in the head repeatedly
Well,
from a
I mean,
distance.
if you didn't run in a straight line, it would be much more difficult for me.
I think what is fun about this is, first of all, it's a really, really well known map. Don't remember exactly the name of the map, but if you ever played Unreal Tournament, whatever version there is, there's always the same map where it's a capture the flag map, and
Two
there's
castles.
two temples or castles or whatever they are, and between them there's some roads floating in space, or and some,
The background spins, you get a little dizzy.
yeah. And so yeah, you run around and shooting, but when you're out in the open, it's a perfect place to get sniped in the head.
Yep.
And so I used to do what I used to do is change some settings in the game, because that's one of the, I think the interesting aspects of Unreal is that you can add what they call mutators, which is so
Right.
you can change something. You can have something like quad jumps, or and what I used to do was put in quad jumps, so you can, as the name says, jump 4 times, or was it twice? Anyway, so you change the number of times you can jump up, and which is basically means that there's low gravity on the in the arena, and then you put on what they call insta gib, which is
Oh
you get
yes.
something like a beam gun shooting a laser beam, and which kills instantly. And so it's really something like Star Wars, where you're running
Star
around.
Wars, but a bit more graphic.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's exploding into guts and blood, and you can try to play capture the flag like this, or even deathmatch, and it's just completely crazy. Um,
Yes.
What do you think about the music?
The music was good. I mean, I had to turn it down in part because we were we were doing voice chat, and it's very
Yeah.
difficult to voice chat with because it's kind of like I don't know if I'd call it heavy metal, but something in that kind of
Well, yeah,
heavy volume level, and it's for a lot of the games we've been playing, sort of in the MIDI spectrum of music. This was it was an interesting change because all of a sudden, they're doing MP3s or whatever, and
yeah,
you've got full music.
and something like electronic and, like you said, a bit of heavy metal. Really,
Yeah,
really end of the '90s
yeah.
music
It's the
stuff.
end of the '90s idea of what the future music would sound like. It's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, something from the Matrix or something like that.
Yes, yeah, fits in very well in that kind of like gray green spectrum of just imagine what that sounds like, and that's the music.
uh, would you recommend playing the original Unreal Tournament?
Yes, yeah. Oh, it was all kinds of fun. If you've got a few friends, it's not that expensive. It will, if you've got a PC, it will likely work, and you may not even need to do anything at all to get it to
Yeah,
run. Like I didn't even have to run it on compatibility mode. The multiplayer, you don't need any extra programs. You can just do it in the game. You can just get a few friends together and and just play, and it works. It's fun. It takes a little while to get the hang of because it's different than a modern shooter. It's both harder and easier at the same time. Um, but yeah, I would absolutely play this again and recommend it to anyone else to play.
I have to say, I was afraid we would have to try some third-party programs to do some multiplayer. I remembered when we tried to play Total Annihilation, and it went a bit. I mean, once we got our hands on the what's called what is it called, Game
Game
Finder,
Ranger,
Game Ranger,
yeah.
and I was hoping that we will have to uh, get into this and maybe try to. There was also the option to try to set up a false local area network to play in LAN mode. So basically, as if we did a LAN party, which would be nice, but in these times, it's not recommended. Um, but yeah, no, like you said, it went really well. Didn't
There's
even have to start our own server. Just
no, there's so many servers out there. You can go play with people right now wherever you
yeah.
are. There are people playing Unreal Tournament.
I don't know what it says about our society, but I think it's good. I think it's good.
I think it's
Uh,
good.
and
I
yeah,
mean, it
well,
better be. I mean, we're doing an old games podcast. It's good for us at least.
absolutely, and I will certainly recommend the game too. Like you said, little bit harder to get back into. I will try to see if we can still buy Unreal Tournament 2004, 2003 to see, just to see if we can still play this. Maybe it will be a bit strange, and we will have more problems with this version than with the original one. We'll see.
Yeah, it's
Just
weird how that happens sometimes. It actually
yeah,
could be more
there's a
difficult.
weird period of time, what we maybe could call the Windows Game Live era, where
Ugh.
some stuff was just not functioning right.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah,
yeah.
it was a strange time, a dark time. So anyway, always a pleasure, Robert, to nerd out about old PC games with you. Thank you, of course, to everyone listening right now. Before we go, would like to maybe take a few moments to talk about what's new on our Twitter account. As just said, Robert is at SVGA Podcast. Would you like to maybe try to sum up what's going on there?
Yeah, well, we're doing a couple things. We're going to start doing mini reviews every Tuesday,
Yeah,
and essentially just quick 4 or 5 tweet thread where we go through an old game. And this week, as I mentioned in a very roundabout way, I reviewed Star Wars Dark Forces, a 1995 2.5D first person shooter. Really great, a lot of fun. Um, it's a pretty good Star Wars story. It's a game that holds up reasonably well. It's basically like playing a much more refined Doom in the Star Wars universe, and it was a lot of fun.
Mhm. And every Thursday, as I did earlier today, because of course we are recording this on the Thursday night, it's the well, I found a city name for it, but it's
I had
basically
nothing to do with this name. I just want to be clear before we
it's
go any
called
further.
SVGA Ganza, which is basically a sales thread. We go on the Humble Bundle website because they are our partners in this, and we select a few games for you, games that we like already. And basically, usually it's games from the 90s, the early 2000s. I think I cheated a little bit today with Borderlands 2, but it's a really, really good game. So whatever. And I mean, we can basically do choose to do what we want with this. It's our show after all. But yeah,
It's
we
our show.
try
We
to
make
stay.
the rules.
Yeah, we make the rules. We try to stay within certain boundaries. But anyway, so it's a sales thread every Thursday. Great games, great prices. So if you
Yeah.
want to
This
have
week
a look,
I picked up a game I had been looking at and hadn't actually bought yet, but the original Max Payne is very cheap right now.
yeah,
You should check out SVGA podcast to find a link for that, because I paid less than $4 for it, and it's a fantastic game. You should go play.
yeah, it's really, really good. Maybe I haven't played the third one yet. It's somewhere in my library. But I heard it was a bit different from the first and the second one.
Yeah,
And
it is a
don't,
bit different. I only played it on console, so it was a very different experience, but still enjoyable. Still a lot of that kind of storytelling and stuff. But you go to Brazil and you're sort of a bodyguard for a high end thing, so it's very different than the like hard boiled New York cop fighting a drug war kind of thing.
I see. And whatever you do, don't watch the movie. It's bad. It's
I think
really,
I
really.
saw it and I remember absolutely nothing about it.
There is Mark Wahlberg in it. That's all you need to know. Don't
Yeah, good
watch
enough. Pass. I mean, pass a second time, I guess. I don't know.
it.
The
Yeah,
first one, the first viewing didn't leave an impression, so I mean, it wasn't.
that's for
It
the
was
best.
neither good nor so bad that I remembered it, which is probably the worst thing you can say about a movie.
Yeah. We will also officially, we will also soon officially launch our Twitch channel. It already exists. If you want to search for SVGA podcast, of course, there we are already there. But we will launch our series of Let's Plays. I already have one Let's Play about Fate, the excellent game Fate. But we'll move on to Twitch, and if you we'll keep you posted about this. If you want to come hang out, watch us play, basically watch me rage and fail. So we'll try to
It's
be
kind
to
of
stay
amusing. You should join us. It's
and
fun.
have some good commentary. So that's it for us. You can catch up on previous episodes, of course, on piev.ca. We're also on SoundCloud and on Spotify. See you next time.
Thanks, everybody.